Okay, this is going to be a short little video on how to do a one sample z-test or a t-test using StatCrunch for your MyLab homework. I'm going to run through two different examples. Both of them are pretty much run the same way. This will not cover all of your problems that you'll see in MyLab, but it will show you how to cover the ones that involve doing a test for a z-test or a t-test one sample. So I am on section 7.2 homework, and you can see here I have some summarized information. I have a claim. The claim is that the mean consumption of tuna by person is 3.5. So right off the bat, that means I'm going to use the equal to and not equal to. And the equal to part is going to be in the HO because that always has the equality statement. This is one-tailed because of the word is right there. That's the key. Is. Is means equal. So immediately know it has to either be B or it has to be F for this problem. And since the 3.5 is the claim, we know that it's 3.5, not 3.3. So what we're going to do is we're now going to turn around and I'm going to show you how I got these values here, how I got the Z, how I got the P, and then how I got the decision. So I'm going to open this up in StatCrunch. So right from my problem, I'm going to open up a StatCrunch file. Shrink this down a little bit, and we're going to go from here. So I need to enter in the data. So here's how you do a z-test or a t-test in StatCrunch. You come to Stat, and then you choose Z or T, depending on which one you're doing. Once you do that, I am going to, in this particular one, since it says the population standard deviation is 1.16, that's a Z. So I have a z-test, one sample, with summary because all the information has been summarized for me. I already have the mean, I already have the standard deviation, everything is summarized. So the sample mean is 3.3, and I get that from right there. The samples or the standard deviation is 1.16, I get that from right there. That's the population standard deviation, and I got a sample size of 50. Now, when it says hypothesis test for mu, we're saying mu equals, well, the claim was 3.3. So I'm going to type in 3.3 there. And that's, oh, excuse me, the claim was 3.5. Make sure you type in the right one. So I'm going to type in 3.5 there. And I get that information with, the average was 3.3. So let's make sure I have all the information. 3.3 is what I found from my sample. There's my standard deviation that the population has. There's my sample size. That was the claim. So now let's see if it is going to work. So when I hit compute, I get all my values right here. So I'm going to shrink them down a little bit over here now. And I find a p-value. My z-statistic, negative 1.22 is how I get that value right there. I pull off the z-statistic. The p-value is right here, 0.223. You can see I have 0.2228, which is 0.223, rounding it as needed. So now I have to make my determination. Your alpha level of 0.06 basically says if the p-value is bigger than that, then I have a chance that I can still be right and change my number. So I'm failing to reject the HO. You make that decision based on what you see for your p-value, which is right there, compared to your alpha level. In doing so, that's just simply how you walk through a z-test or a t-test when you have the summarized information. I'm going to show you the slight difference if we come to a question and that question has not summarized information and instead we have like a table. So I'm going to click show me all the answers so we got where we're at. So I have a table of values right here that I'm going to work with this time. So now it says an employment information service claims the mean salaries is 9,600. That's how I get my HO and my HA. They claim it is 9,600, and so therefore the is not 9,600 goes on the other part. In this particular case, the claim is the null hypothesis. The next part we need to do is we need to find critical values, and we're going to do that in a second. I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. We're going to click this button right here. And when I click this button right here, it says copy to table, but I can open it in StatCrunch. Now I have all my information has just been copied over to StatCrunch. And I'm going to do almost the exact same thing. Stat, and in this particular one, I do not have the population standard deviation. Nowhere does it tell me the population standard deviation. So I'm going to go to Stat, T, one sample, but this time I'm going to go with data, because with the data, I actually have a column of information that I need to plug in. So I select the column, I go through the column, I choose the column I want it to run. I'm going to put in my 9600 right there for my value I'm comparing. I'm going to hit compute. Now I got my values here. So at this point in time, we did our test, but it's asking for the critical values. Well, this degrees of freedom right here, DF equals 15. That's the degrees of freedom. So now I'm going to need to go over to this table. And if you recall, we covered it in this table. So right here, I have a alpha of 5%, and I have a two-tailed graph because because the word is was used. We had the word is, which means it's a two-tailed graph. So I have a 5% alpha in two tails. So I come here to two tails, 5% alpha. I go down to that degrees of freedom being 15, and I got a value right there. So here's my 15, comes over, 5% comes down, so I got 2.13. So that's how I got negative 2.13 and positive 2.13 because it's two-tailed, so I just use symmetry rules to apply. So then we come down the rest of the way. You're putting your values down here. You're choosing which of the graph does it look like. We're going to go through the rest of the way. Now, it says, what is the standardized test statistic? Well, you can see right now that I did something wrong. Hold on 1 second. Stat, T-stat, one sample with data. I'm going to choose this. Mu is 9600 is what I'm testing it against. And I compute that. 1-0 makes a huge difference. I put in 9,600 instead of 96,000. So that was a mistake I made. Sorry about that. But you can see right here, I got negative 1.25 after I rounded it. And that's how I got negative 1.25 right there. It ran the test and it compared this column of data to the 9,600 or 96,000 that I was dealing with, came up with this test statistic, and it came up with this p-value. So now in my test statistic, I just compare that with my critical values. So over here, I had a critical value of -2 and a +2. And here I had the test statistic. So then I turn around and I run that test statistic the rest of the way. And then I make decisions based on failing to reject or rejecting. So the difference is again, here I had a table of values that I came through right here. So I click on this little icon. I open it up in StatCrunch, and when I do, I get the information right there. I don't have to copy it over. Then I come over here to t-test, one sample with data or with summary. I choose which one I'm going to use. If I have a column of information, I'm going to choose with data. And if I already have the mean and the standard deviation found out for me, I'm just going to choose with summary. So that is how you would basically be using these for any of your work in Chapter 7. It's for either a z-test or a t-test, and hopefully this will help speed you through StatCrunch and how to use that.